Hi, I'm Jeff Ritter, and I'm the professor for Information Communication and Development for Global 4007 course, La Roche College, Spring 2014. Doesn't feel much like spring today, but that's coming soon. So I kind of decided that you deserve a new video, so I'm going to make a new video for PDF 1, Week 1. So open that up. You can pause this if you like while you open that up, and we're going to go through the first class outline right here for you now. Okay, so to get to the first page, what are global classes? This is something most of you probably know. Part of the liberal arts college experience is that you get a broad education, and certainly expectation today is that you'll understand something about globalization, what's going on in the world, and in this case, developing countries, technology, communication. All those things are going to be valuable for you no matter really what field or what specialty you're going into. Any organization, anything you work towards is most likely going to be helpful. So we're happy to include that for you. The expectations for the class, certainly please come to the website, the Blackboard site, at least once or twice a week. You want to see new assignments, you want to participate in the discussion board, you want to watch the videos, and take care of the essay questions, and watch the documentary videos and readings that I have for you. So make sure you do all that. It's a lot of work, I think, for a 3-credit class. That's normal, but of course, there's no coming to class, so you save a bit of time and you're able to work on your own time during the week efficiently. Try to get the week's assignments done during the week. That's going to keep you up to date and prevent you from falling too far behind and having to catch up way at the end. So be careful on that one. Explore the syllabus yourself. That gives you a good description of what the expectations of the course, what the assignments are, what the breadth of the material is for the class. So let's go to the second page or third page of the PDF. What are ICTs? Information and Communication Technologies. Very simple. Cell phones, computers, iPads, internet, DVD. Used to be Palm Pilots even. So wide range of things count as ICTs. And as the second point, the processors, memory, bandwidth, and storage, those are all important parts of what we see going on. Most significantly, in that these change, they develop, they get faster, they get cheaper as these industries grow and flourish. And of course, as they compete, there's no government entity, there's no global entity saying now it's time for the next operating system or now it's time for smartphones. It's all based on individual companies competing for the marketplace. Of course, the original development of many of these technologies was not from companies, but was from government investment in research during the Cold War. So we're going to look at things in that perspective later in the class. The Cold War period, 1945 to about 1990, that's significant for many things, but certainly for the investment in technology that the United States government did with tax dollars, which ended up in the creation of the technologies that eventually became the internet, cell phones, computers, smartphones, iPads, everything coming from the development of integrated circuits and chips and processors. So you'll hear more about that later. Look at that third point on page 3. ICTs provide the ability to organize, disseminate, analyze, store, copy, and communicate information. This really is a shortcut for all of the things that go on using communication technologies, whether it's watching videos like this, downloading documents, reading online, watching movies, sending emails, sending texts, all those things. And imagine, just look at it, that list, and realize how much of that takes part, is a part of your everyday life today, and how much it speeds up, makes it more efficient, saves you time, and allows you to do things you just couldn't do before. Even consider analyze. You don't analyze information on a daily basis, but if you do, look at an Excel chart once in a while instead of a spreadsheet of numbers, you find it's easier to analyze the chart than the spreadsheet. That's why we have students make charts so much. But you'll see how much these have added to everyday life and made things easier and more efficient. All right, next page is development. Development just means, very simply, meeting the needs of people. Look at all the areas: health, education, business, agriculture, government. We may take for granted here, and we've got students from all over the world but in the class, but we take for granted here all these things are going to take place every day. We're not going to have to worry about them. Health, we worry about a little bit. Education, you participate in. Agriculture, some takes care of its own area, but government helps out. But government guides a good deal of our day. And business, of course, provides everything that the government doesn't provide on a regular basis for your everyday life. It's done by business, whether that's food, clothing, shelter, games, entertainment, information, education. anything that's not from the government is done by business. So business is a significant part of everyday life, and what all these things need to improve development, meeting the needs of people, and of course raising the standard of living for people around the world. The middle class, of course, we'll look at more details. And if you looked at Hans Rosling's video already, that's the other link in the initial announcement, then you know middle class is rising around the world. It's a great time, not for everybody, but most people are rising in their income, rising in their standard of living, and rising in their uh, life expectancy. Is really happening around the world. All right, so that's what we're going to look at, though, is development and how ICTs are used to improve all these fields, and think about how we do it here. ICTs, technologies, and business, education, health, agriculture, government, making a big, big difference in everyday life and making all these things faster and more efficient. Next page is page 5. I'm kind of rushing through this. I don't want to be too long a video. Just simply, we don't really use the term underdeveloped anymore or undeveloped. There's no place in the world that's undeveloped, really. I mean, there's forests and jungles and vast mountain ranges that are undeveloped, but where most people live, development is going strong. Developing countries is really the way we put it. And as I said, in all those developing countries that we'll look at, and you could look at and look them up on Google or YouTube yourself, uh, there's middle class, there's wealthy, there's education, there's electricity, there's streets and roads and cars and bridges, there's internet, there's computers, communication, there's cell phones. We're really looking at, if you think about places in the world that are undeveloped, there's very few places where they don't have at least occasional access to some of these things, to some or most of these things. So look at that as a big part of the world that is developing, is happening very quickly. Least developed countries, of course, there are still a group of least developed countries, one of which is in our hemisphere. Can you guess which one? Which country that is? That's right, it's Haiti. One of the least developed countries in the world. It's really not too far away from the United States. All right, go to page 6. Factors of development. This is one of the main things we'll look at for most of the class is going to be economy. We have to understand the economy and how economies work. Otherwise, you would say, well, why can't we just fix that economy and have people have jobs and have people make a living and have people raise their standard of living? A very difficult thing. We don't even really know how to do it here, how to raise the standard of living or improve the economy or create more jobs. It's a very mysterious process in some cases. Economists don't necessarily think so, but they don't have a strict formula on how these things work. But we have to learn about the economy, so you're going to use the Commanding Heights video for that. Society, culture, history, all the things that are behind the lack of development for big parts of the world since the 1940s, since the 1950s, relate mostly or relate directly to the Cold War. So we're going to have to learn about the Cold War. We use a great video series for that. And some of your own activities and learning and processes for learning about that as well. But for those of you who like history or missed something in history, we're still going to do it anyway. We're going to learn about the Cold War and its effect on development. Geography. Has that been a significant factor in development? Where a country is, the weather, the types of land they have around? Well, some people theorize that it is, but there's not really that much evidence that proves that geography is significant. You have Australia, you have South America, you have South Africa, you have Brazil, places with great amounts of development and huge populations of middle-class people. So it's not, you can't say it's some climate makes people lazy and not developed. It's usually a factor of history, economics, including culture, and including warfare and domination that has affected lack of development in parts of the world. So those are the main theories that we'll look at in terms of what's going on around the world. And of course, globalization, important part of what you need to learn about. We'll use uh, the book. We're not going to read the book, but you'll use a lecture from the author, Todd Friedman, about The World is Flat to understand more about globalization. All right? Look at the next page. We're on page 7. Reasons for the lack of development. Sure, this is a question people ask and want to know about. Unequal development is normal around the world. Nobody's expecting that everybody's going to get a tiny little car before people get big cars, or is going to get a little computer before people get fast computers. Unequal development is happening now, happening all around the world, and it's always happened. And only in a tightly controlled society would you be able to say everybody doesn't get something better until we get that. Getting better things, getting better access or more things or more things that improve our lives is an incentive people have in front of them for working harder, for doing more, for gaining more for themselves. how are you going to buy a Coke if you're in poverty and you say, boy, I'm working all day in a hot desert on a hot farm. I really want to get that Coke. Previously, all we've had is water, but now I really want to buy that Coke. That looks refreshing. Other people are buying. Well, it's going to take a little bit of hard work, sacrifice, or buying instead of something else. But people generally work harder to get more of what they want, and so that's been going on for a while. Another reason for the lack of development, historical context. I mentioned that already. The Cold War, probably one of the big reasons, and the end of colonialism. We'll talk about that as well as reasons for the lack of development. It's not race, climate, intelligence, brain size, or access to food, falling off of trees. None of that. That's been theorized by people, but there's no good evidence for any of those things being significant in the lack of development around the world. The last phrase is one of my favorite. Intelligence is distributed globally around the world the same as stupidity. It's the same everywhere. No evidence to the contrary. They're smart, dumb, equal, middle, everything people all around the world. And the lack of development in some places is just an anomaly or it's an accident of history. All right, so coming up in the class, here's the next slide, page 8. We're going to use the Cold War. We're going to lose world politics will be coming up real soon in the class, and we'll have Thomas Friedman. This is not correct for in class. We're not going to watch the video in class, but we'll have Tom Friedman coming up soon. On the last page here, we've got homework for you. Remember, this is a 16-week class, so you're going to have assignments for each week. For the first week, there's 2 different things on there: the ICTs in life writing assignment and a short quiz, which is just a pre-test to let me know what kind of information knowledge people already have. It's not for a grade, it's not to be counted, but it's just to inform me a little bit so I can assess where you start out. All right, so that's the whole video for the class for the first one, and thanks for joining me. And if you have any questions or need anything, let me know. Things should be clear in the announcement section, the assignment section, and sometimes it's a little overwhelming, I'm sure, but if you have any questions or need any clarification, just email me anytime, and I'll be glad to straighten things out. All right? Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.